A melody in the dark. The world was a symphony of sounds, a tapestry woven with invisible threads.
Anna, a young woman of 20, navigated this world with a heart full of music and a cane that tapped out a steady rhythm against the pavement. Living in the bustling heart of Birmingham, she embraced the city's vibrant energy even as she yearned for a connection that ran deeper than the surface.
Blind since birth, I painted pictures with my soulful voice, pouring my joys and sorrows into the melodies I crafted. My stage name, Cloudy, was a whisper of my reality.
Her days were filled with the familiar routines of her world, the comforting aroma of her mom's strong tea brewing in the morning, the feel of Braille beneath her fingertips as she devoured books, the echo of her voice resonating in their small flat as she practiced her latest song.
Yet, a longing lingered in my heart, a desire for a connection that transcended the physical, a bond that spoke to the very essence of my being. I craved a friendship where my blindness wasn't a barrier, where my words weren't met with pitying glances or awkward silences.
She yearned for someone who saw beyond her disability, someone who embraced the symphony of her soul, the melody of her laughter, the raw emotion that poured out in every note she sang. Little did she know, fate, like a mischievous conductor, was about to orchestrate a meeting that would change her life forever.
Laughter on wheels. Miles away in the leafy suburb of Alderley Edge, I lived my life confined to a wheelchair. My world, once a whirlwind of activity, had shrunk to the four walls of my home, my days measured out in the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway.
Despite the physical limitations that life had thrown her way, Helen's spirit remained undimmed, her laughter as bright and infectious as ever.
My laughter lines, etched around bright blue eyes, spoke of a life well lived, a tapestry woven with threads of joy and sorrow, love and loss. I possessed a heart that refused to be confined by the walls around me, a spirit that soared beyond the limitations of my physical form.
With her booming laugh and her penchant for colorful scarves, Helen was a force of nature, a whirlwind of warmth and generosity.
Though my world had shrunk, my heart had expanded, embracing the world through the stories I read, the conversations I shared, the connections I forged. I filled my days with the simple pleasures that brought me joy, tending to my beloved rose garden, listening to audiobooks, and chatting with my neighbors over the garden fence.
Yet, a part of her yearned for a deeper connection, a kindred spirit who understood the challenges and triumphs of living life on their own terms. In the digital age where connections transcend physical boundaries, fate often plays out in the most unexpected ways. Social media, often criticized for its superficiality, became the unlikely bridge between these two souls, connecting Anna's Birmingham flat to Helen's cozy home in Alderley Edge.
Our initial interactions were tentative, a digital dance of cautious hellos and shared interests.
Anna, hesitant at first, found herself drawn to Helen's warmth, her ability to find humor in the mundane, her genuine interest in Anna's life as a musician.
I was captivated by Anna's spirit, her resilience in the face of adversity, and the raw emotion that poured out in her music.
Their conversations deepened, evolving from polite exchanges to heartfelt confessions, their shared vulnerabilities forging a bond that transcended age, distance, and physical limitations. The phone became their lifeline, their daily conversations a source of comfort and support.
I would pour my heart out about the challenges of navigating a world not designed for the visually impaired, my frustrations at being underestimated, my dreams of sharing my music with the world.
With my years of wisdom and my own experiences of overcoming adversity, I offered words of encouragement, practical advice, and a listening ear that truly heard the unspoken yearnings of Anna's heart.
Their friendship blossomed, a vibrant rose in the digital landscape. They shared their joys and sorrows, their hopes and fears, their dreams for the future. They celebrated each other's triumphs, offered solace during moments of despair, and found strength in the unwavering support they provided each other.
It was during one of our late-night phone calls, our laughter echoing through the phone lines, that I mentioned my neighbor, Daniel.
He's a right character, Helen chuckled, her voice warm with affection. A bit younger than you, love, but with a heart of gold. He's a bit of a music man himself, always fiddling about with his instruments. Rapping, he calls it.
Intrigued, I found myself picturing this mysterious neighbor, his words flowing to the beat of his own drum.
Little did she know that Daniel, like a missing note in the symphony of her life, was about to add a new layer of complexity, a melody all his own. Their paths, orchestrated by fate's invisible hand, were about to collide in ways neither of them could have imagined.
The phone line crackled with warmth, a familiar comfort settling over Anna as Helen's voice filled her small flat. Their conversations were a lifeline, a tapestry woven with threads of laughter, shared secrets, and the comforting cadence of their Birmingham and Cheshire accents intertwining.
You would love it here, love. Roses as big as your face they are. And the smell, oh, it's heavenly.
Anna would close her eyes, her imagination painting its own vibrant tapestry as she inhaled deeply, the scent of her mum's strong tea mingling with the imagined fragrance of roses in full bloom. They spoke of everything and nothing, their conversations meandering like a lazy river, flowing from the mundane details of their daily lives to their hopes, dreams, and fears for the future.
You have a gift, love. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Your voice, it's like a balm to the soul.
Despite the physical distance separating them, Anna and Helen found solace and companionship in their daily phone calls. They celebrated each other's small victories, offered solace during moments of self-doubt, and found strength in their shared vulnerabilities.
Oh, you won't believe what happened at the doctor's today. The nurse, bless her heart, she mistook me for someone's grandmother. Me, a grandmother. I nearly choked on my own laughter.
Anna, her own laughter bubbling up, could picture the scene vividly. Helen, with her bright smile and her colourful scarves, charming the socks off the unsuspecting nurse. Their conversations were a lifeline, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, joy could be found in the most unexpected places. Helen's laughter was a tonic, a reminder that life, despite its challenges, was meant to be lived to the fullest. She encouraged Anna to embrace her independence, to challenge her own limitations, and to never let fear hold her back from pursuing her dreams.
He's a right character, that one. A bit of a loner, mind you, but with a heart of gold. He's a musician too, you know. A rapper, he calls himself.
What's he like?
He's had a tough time of it, poor lad. But he's a good soul through and through. And talented, oh my, yes. He's got a way with words, that one.
Anna, her interest growing with each passing moment, found herself drawn to Daniel's story. There was something about his vulnerability, his passion for music, that resonated deep within her soul.
You know, love, I bet Daniel would love to hear your music. He's always complaining that he never meets any decent musicians around here.
Oh, I don't know, Helen. Do you really think he'd like it?
Absolutely, give it a shot.
Anna, hesitant at first, eventually agreed. With a mix of nerves and excitement, she shared the link to her YouTube channel, her heart pounding in her chest as she imagined this stranger listening to her music, her soul laid bare for him to judge.
Okay, here goes nothing.
Later that night, Anna received a text message from an unknown number.
Hey, it's Daniel. Just listen to your music. Wow, you've got a gift, Cloudy.
Anna's heart skipped a beat. His words were simple, yet they held a sincerity that resonated with her. They exchanged a few more messages, their conversation flowing easily as they bonded over their shared love for music. As days turned into weeks, Anna and Daniel's friendship deepened. They spent hours on the phone, their conversations ranging from music to their personal struggles to their hopes for the future.
I really appreciate how you listen, Daniel. It means a lot.
And I admire your strength, Anna. Your music, it's just incredible.
Anna found herself drawn to Daniel's quiet intensity, his ability to listen without judgment, and his unwavering support for her dreams. Daniel, in turn, was captivated by Anna's strength, her resilience in the face of adversity, and the raw emotion that poured out in her music.
I know this might sound crazy, but I think I'm falling for you, Cloudy.
Anna, her heart pounding in her chest, was taken aback by his confession. She had never considered the possibility of a romantic relationship with someone she had never met in person. Yet there was an undeniable connection between them, a spark that ignited whenever their voices intertwined.
Daniel, I don't know what to say. This is so unexpected.
Their long-distance relationship blossomed, fueled by late-night phone calls, shared playlists, and the occasional text message filled with longing and affection. Anna, initially hesitant to open her heart fully, found herself falling deeper into the warmth of Daniel's embrace.
I never thought I could feel this close to someone I've never met in person.
Me neither, but here we are. I'm learning so much about you, Anna, and I love every bit of it.
He was patient, understanding, and willing to learn about her world, her needs, and her boundaries. He embraced her asexuality, respecting her need for emotional intimacy over physical touch, and their conversations often revolved around their shared dreams, their fears, and their vulnerabilities.
Thank you for understanding me, Daniel. It means more than you know.
We'll find a way to bridge this distance, Anna, I promise.
However, the distance between them weighed heavily on their hearts. The longing to bridge the physical gap grew stronger with each passing day, their phone calls filled with a bittersweet mix of joy and yearning.
The delicate tapestry of our long-distance love, woven with threads of late-night calls and shared dreams, began to fray at the edges. Despite my initial understanding of Anna's asexuality, I battled with insecurities, my anxieties amplified by the miles that separated us. The physical distance, once a mere inconvenience, morphed into a breeding ground for doubt, my mind conjuring images of a world Anna inhabited, a world I could only access through the filtered lens of her voice. I craved reassurance, my need for validation stemming from a deep-seated fear of inadequacy. Every time Anna mentioned a male friend, a colleague, or even a character in a book, a pang of jealousy would course through me, my mind painting worst-case scenarios. I yearned to be the sole focus of her affection, my insecurities whispering insidious doubts in my ear.
I trusted him implicitly, my heart a beacon of light in the darkness of his anxieties. I continued to shower him with affection, my love expressed through heartfelt words, shared laughter, and the unwavering support I offered for his musical aspirations.
Yet the seeds of doubt once sown had taken root, threatening to poison the well of their love.
The air crackled with nervous energy as my mother and I navigated the labyrinthine chaos of moving day. Cardboard boxes overflowing with a lifetime of memories lined the walls of our small flat, our once familiar home now resembling a chaotic jigsaw puzzle waiting to be reassembled. My cane tapped out a steady rhythm against the hardwood floor as I navigated the obstacle course with practiced ease. My senses heightened as I assisted my mother.
My back protested with every movement as I struggled to keep up, my weathered hands clutching a framed photograph of Anna as a child. My eyes filled with a bittersweet mix of nostalgia and trepidation. The day stretched before us, a seemingly endless cycle of packing, lifting, and sorting.
Each task was punctuated by the insistent ringing of my mobile phone. Calls from friends offering well wishes, from delivery drivers confirming their arrival time, and from Daniel, his voice filled with a longing to hear my voice, to bridge the distance even for a fleeting moment. Yet, consumed by the demands of the day, I silenced each call, my focus narrowed to the task at hand, my phone vibrating insistently in my pocket, a persistent reminder of the world beyond the chaos of our move. Hours melted away like snowflakes on a warm window pane, the day's chaos blurring into a symphony of exhaustion and accomplishment. Finally, as dusk painted the sky in hues of burnt orange and lavender, I collapsed onto the bare floor, my body aching, my senses overwhelmed. Reaching for my phone, I realized with a start that I had missed numerous calls and messages from Daniel.
Her heart skipped a beat, a pang of guilt washing over her as she listened to his voice messages, his initial cheerfulness replaced by a growing sense of worry, his words laced with a desperate need to connect. Each unanswered call, each unread message, had chipped away at his already fragile confidence, his insecurities multiplying with every passing hour. He had convinced himself that she was deliberately ignoring him, his mind weaving a narrative of rejection, his anxieties fueled by the silence that stretched between them. He had sent a flurry of text messages, his words growing increasingly accusatory, his tone shifting from loving concern to bitter resentment.
Why aren't you answering, Anna? Are you with someone else? I need to talk to you, please. This silence is killing me.
Oh, Daniel, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to worry you. It's just been such a hectic day.
But the seeds of doubt had already been sown, and their love stood at a precarious crossroads.
Heart pounding. Dials Daniel's number, the phone seeming to vibrate with the weight of his unspoken accusations.
Voice laced with coldness. Where have you been? I've been calling and texting all day. Do you even care?
Voice trembling. Tries to explain the day's chaos, the constant packing, the endless stream of tasks that had consumed her attention.
Accusingly, I knew this wouldn't last. It's always the same story.
Surge of anger. How dare you? You think I'm some kind of heartless monster who just discards people when it suits me? Tries to reason with him, to explain that her silence had nothing to do with a lack of affection, that her love for him transcended the need for constant communication.
Filled with venom. You're just like all the others. All you women are the same. A little bit of attention, a handsome face, and you're gone.
Heart shattered. I can't believe you would think that of me. Voice barely audible. She had bared her soul to him, shared her vulnerabilities, her fears, her dreams, and he had taken her openness, her trust, and trampled it beneath his feet, replacing it with a toxic cocktail of jealousy and resentment. Voice raw with emotion. I need some space.
The line went dead, the silence that followed amplifying the hollowness that had settled within her.
Desperate for solace, for a voice of reason in the cacophony of my own pain, I dialed Helen's number, my fingers trembling as I pressed the familiar keys.
Hello, Anna, is that you?
Helen, I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart. Daniel, he just...
Oh, love, I'm here. Tell me what happened.
He said such hurtful things, Helen. I can't believe it. I thought he loved me.
He's a fool, love. A blind fool who can't see the treasure he has in you. Don't let his insecurities poison your heart. You are worthy of love, Anna. Never forget that.
Helen's words, laced with wisdom and compassion, offered a glimmer of hope in the darkness, a lifeline to cling to as Anna navigated the treacherous waters of heartbreak. In that moment of shared vulnerability, their bond deepened, their friendship a beacon of light in the storm that raged around them. Days turned into weeks, the raw edges of Anna's heartbreak gradually softening into a dull ache. The silence from Daniel, once deafening, had become a familiar void, a constant reminder of the fragility of trust and the destructive power of unchecked insecurities. She poured her pain into her music, her latest song, a haunting melody of love lost and lessons learned, climbing the charts, her voice reaching out to touch the hearts of strangers, even as her own felt shrouded in a heavy cloak of sadness.
It was during one of my late-night recording sessions, my voice echoing in the stillness of my new flat, that I received a call from Helen's number. My heart leapt with a mixture of hope and trepidation.
Hope that perhaps Daniel had come to his senses, that he would apologize for his hurtful words, that their love could be salvaged from the wreckage of his insecurities. But the voice that greeted her, faint and raspy, belonged not to Daniel, but to a stranger.
Is this Anna? I'm calling from the NHS. We're with Helen. She's asking for you.
What's wrong with her?
Panic clawed at Anna's throat, her breath catching in her chest. She could hear a muffled commotion in the background, the frantic beeping of a machine, the murmur of voices.
She's not well, dear. We're doing everything we can, but she keeps asking for you. Can you speak to her?
The phone was pressed so tightly to Anna's ear that it almost felt as if it were a part of her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, each thump a painful reminder of the miles that separated her from the woman she had come to love like a second mother. Helen's breathing, labored and shallow, filled the silence between her strained words, each breath a precious commodity, a testament to her struggle.
Anna, love?
I'm here, Mom. I'm here and I love you.
Their conversation, punctuated by pauses as Helen fought for breath, was a jumbled mix of reassurances, whispered memories, and unspoken fears. Anna clung to every word, her heart breaking at the sound of Helen's struggle, her mind conjuring images of her lying helpless in a hospital bed. Then abruptly the line went dead.
Helen? Helen, can you hear me? Please answer me.
Anna's panicked calls to Helen's number went unanswered, the ringing tone a cruel mockery of her mounting fear. Days turned into an agonizing blur of unanswered calls, frantic text messages, and a growing sense of dread that gnawed at her insides.
Desperate for information, for any scrap of news about Helen's condition, I swallowed my pride and reached out to the one person who might be able to shed light on the situation, Daniel.
It's none of your business. We're not together anymore, remember? What happens to Helen is not your concern.
She's like a mother to me, Daniel. Don't you understand? I need to know if she's all right.
Why? So you can swoop in and play the grieving daughter? Don't pretend you care. You've already taken enough from me.
His words, laced with bitterness and resentment, stung more than he could know. He had twisted her concern, her love for Helen, into a self-serving act, a manipulation tactic. It was a testament to how deeply his insecurities had poisoned their relationship, how his perception of her had become warped by his own pain.
3 days. 3 agonizing days of radio silence. 3 days of unanswered calls, unread messages, and a growing certainty that something was terribly wrong.
Anna paced her flat, her cane tapping out a frantic rhythm against the hardwood floor, her mind a whirlwind of worst-case scenarios. She had tried everything she could think of, calling the hospital, contacting Helen's neighbors, scouring the internet for any scrap of information. But Helen, it seemed, had vanished into thin air, her absence a gaping hole in Anna's life.
Then, in a moment of desperate inspiration, an idea sparked in my mind. With trembling fingers, I dialed Helen's number, this time blocking my caller ID. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, each ring sending a jolt of adrenaline through my system.
Hello?
Mom, it's me, Anna. I was so worried I couldn't get hold of you.
Silence, then a sharp intake of breath, and finally Helen's voice, cold and distant, said,
Don't ever call me again.
The line went dead. Confusion warred with hurt as Anna stared at her phone. the screen reflecting her own bewildered expression. Why had Helen hung up on her? What had happened in those agonizing 3 days to make her turn against Anna so completely? She tried calling back, but the line went straight to voicemail, Helen's cheerful outgoing message now a cruel reminder of their shattered bond.
Then a message from Daniel popped up on my screen, each word a venomous barb aimed at my already wounded heart.
Leave her alone, you've done enough damage. Stop harassing an elderly woman for money.
Harassing her for money? What was he talking about?
Suddenly a chilling realization dawned on her. Daniel, fueled by his own resentment and his warped perception of her, had poisoned Helen against her. He had spun a narrative where Anna, the vulnerable one, was the villain, preying on Helen's kindness, her generosity.
Wake me up when you are ready to look
Anger, fierce and righteous, coursed through me, momentarily eclipsing the pain of Helen's rejection. I had never asked Helen for anything, had always been careful to maintain our friendship on an equal footing. In fact, it was Helen who had insisted on donating to my online fundraiser, a gesture of support during my eviction crisis, a crisis that had long since passed. Determined to prove Daniel's accusations false, to sever any financial tie that could be misconstrued as manipulation, I opened my banking app and initiated a transfer. £20, the exact amount of Helen's donation. I added an extra £5, a symbolic gesture of my own, and in the transaction description, I wrote, "Return donation and welfare." My message sent, a wave of exhaustion washed over me, leaving me feeling drained and defeated. I had lost Daniel, my love for him now a bitter memory, and now it seemed I had lost Helen too, our bond shattered by Daniel's venomous lies. Later that evening, another message from Daniel arrived, confirming my worst fears. "You made your choice," he wrote, his words devoid of any trace of remorse. "You broke up with me, took everything from me. Now I'm taking someone you love away from you." A scream, raw and primal, ripped from my throat, echoing in the emptiness of my flat. I wanted to lash out to make him understand the depths of his cruelty, the devastation he had wrought. But words felt inadequate, mere whispers in the face of his monstrous betrayal. I stumbled to my bed, collapsing onto the mattress, my body racked with sobs. The weight of Daniel's betrayal, of Helen's rejection, pressed down on me, threatening to crush my spirit. In my hand, I clutched the Perkins bracelet Helen had gifted me, its keys cold against my skin. With trembling fingers, I embossed a single name on a braille label, Helen. I placed the label over my heart, a tangible reminder of the love that had once filled my life, a love now tainted by betrayal and loss. As I drifted off to sleep, a single word escaped my lips, a whisper of love in the face of unimaginable pain. Mama. I lay curled in bed, my body a vessel for a grief so profound it felt physical. Daniel's words, laced with venom and vindictiveness, echoed in the silence of my small flat, each syllable a blow to my already shattered heart. The betrayal, a monstrous beast with claws sunk deep into my soul, threatened to consume me whole. I had lost Daniel, his love revealed to be a flimsy facade, easily shattered by the sharp edges of his own insecurities. But the loss of Helen, the woman who had become my confidant, my champion, my surrogate mother, cut far deeper. Daniel, in his twisted rage, had poisoned our bond, replacing the warmth of our connection with suspicion and distrust. I could vividly recall the day Helen had surprised me with the Perkins bracelet, her laughter echoing in my small flat as she explained its intricacies. "Now you can write me letters, love," Helen had said, her voice filled with warmth. "Proper letters with bumps and all. It'll be our little secret code." Now, that bracelet, a symbol of our shared connection, felt heavy in my hand, its keys cold against my fingertips. The label I had painstakingly created, with Helen's name embossed in Braille, was a tangible reminder of the love we had shared, a love seemingly extinguished by Daniel's cruel machinations. Days turned into nights, each one a torturous cycle of insomnia and exhaustion. Sleep, once a sanctuary, had become a minefield of painful memories and heart-wrenching dreams. I found myself wandering my flat in the darkness, my cane a lifeline in the disorienting world without light. The Brailler sat on my bedside table, a silent witness to my grief. I longed to reach out to Helen, to explain, to apologize for the pain Daniel had caused, but the memory of our last phone call, of Helen's cold rejection, held me back. Fear, a venomous serpent, coiled around my heart, whispering doubts, amplifying my insecurities. Had Daniel poisoned Helen against me so completely that there was no possibility of reconciliation? Had our bond, once so strong, been irrevocably shattered? The questions, relentless and unforgiving, circled my mind, offering no solace, no respite from the overwhelming grief that threatened to drown me. The silence from Helen was deafening, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, stealing my breath, my will to fight. The world, once vibrant with music and laughter, had shrunk to the confines of my small flat, the air thick with unshed tears and the suffocating scent of despair. Exhaustion, a constant companion, tugged at my eyelids, dragging me into a restless sleep filled with fragmented dreams and haunting memories. In the darkness behind my eyelids, Helen's laughter echoed, a bittersweet symphony of what was and what might never be again. I dreamt of our phone calls, of Helen's voice, warm and comforting, filling the emptiness of my world. But the dreams always soured, twisting into nightmares of accusation and rejection. Helen's face, once etched with warmth and affection, morphed into a mask of cold fury. Her voice, usually a soothing melody, transformed into a bitter rasp, spewing accusations that pierced my heart like shards of ice. I would wake with a gasp, my heart pounding against my ribs, my body slick with a cold sweat, the echo of Helen's rejection ringing in my ears. The darkness of my room, once a comforting embrace, now felt suffocating, a physical manifestation of the despair that threatened to consume me. And through it all, a single word escaped my lips, a whispered plea, a desperate yearning for a connection seemingly lost forever. Mama! The word, laden with love and longing, hung in the air, a testament to the depth of my loss, the unyielding grip of my grief. My world, once filled with the vibrant colors of my music, the comforting rhythm of my daily routine, had faded to a dull, aching gray. The joy I had once found in crafting melodies, in pouring my heart into my songs, had evaporated, leaving behind a hollow emptiness that mirrored the state of my own being. Food lost its appeal, my meals reduced to a perfunctory necessity, my body growing thinner, weaker, a physical manifestation of my soul's slow decline. Friends reached out, their voices filled with concern, but their words seemed to come from a distant land, their attempts at comfort failing to penetrate the impenetrable fog of my grief. The Brailler remained untouched on my bedside table, a silent reproach, a reminder of the creative outlet I could no longer summon the energy to embrace. My guitar lay encased in its stand, its strings silent, its once vibrant finish now dull and lifeless, reflecting the state of my spirit. Even the city outside my window, usually a symphony of urban chaos, seemed to sense my despair, its usual cacophony of sound muted, replaced by a hushed, mournful silence that mirrored the desolate landscape of my own heart. Silence descends. The music stops. The world, oblivious to the tragedy unfolding within the walls of my small flat, continued to spin. Days bled into weeks, each one indistinguishable from the last, a monotonous cycle of despair and encroaching darkness. Once a beacon of light, my music a source of hope and inspiration for so many, I retreated further into the shadows. My voice, once a soaring testament to the resilience of the human spirit, is now silenced by the weight of my grief. My social media accounts, once abuzz with activity, fell silent. Fans accustomed to my regular posts, my heartfelt messages, my soul-stirring melodies, expressed their concern, their messages a chorus of worried whispers in the digital void. But lost in the labyrinth of my own pain, I remained deaf to their pleas, their love unable to penetrate the impenetrable wall of my grief. My manager, initially understanding, grew increasingly frantic as calls went unanswered, emails ignored. The music industry, a fickle beast driven by deadlines and demands, moved on, its attention span short, its appetite for new talent insatiable. And through it all, the Brailler sat on my bedside table, its keys cold and silent, a poignant symbol of the creative spark that had been extinguished, the voice that had been silenced, the light that had faded from the world. The world, in its vastness, barely registered the absence of one young woman's voice. Life, in its relentless march forward, continued unabated, the sun rising and setting with predictable regularity, oblivious to the tragedy that had befallen one small corner of its vast expanse.
But for those whose lives had been touched by Anna's music, her absence left a void, a sense of something precious lost. Her fans, once united by their shared love of her music, her message of hope, mourned her silence, their online tributes a testament to the power of her art to connect, to heal, to inspire. My health slowly returning, I remained oblivious to the true extent of Daniel's manipulation, the depth of the pain he had inflicted. I carried the weight of my own guilt. My belief in Daniel's lies a heavy burden on my already fragile heart. I missed Anna's calls, her laughter, the warmth of our connection, but the fear, sown by Daniel's venomous words, prevented me from reaching out. And so, life went on, its tapestry forever altered by the absence of Anna's vibrant thread, her melody silenced, her light extinguished, leaving behind a lingering echo of what was and what might have been.
Years later, a faded newspaper clipping, tucked away in a dusty box of memories, told the story of a young musician found dead in her flat. The cause of death, the article stated, was heart failure. A tragic end for a rising star, the journalist wrote, her words failing to capture the true extent of the loss, the devastating combination of heartbreak and betrayal that had led to Anna's untimely demise. In a quiet corner of a leafy cemetery, Anna's grave lay undisturbed, her headstone adorned with a simple inscription, Anna Cloudy Roberts. Her music touched our hearts. A single red rose, placed there by an unknown visitor, added a splash of color to the otherwise somber scene. And somewhere, in a world that had moved on, a melody lingered, a haunting echo of a voice silenced too soon, a voice that had spoken of love and loss, of hope and despair, a voice that had touched the hearts of many, a voice that would never be forgotten. The Braille label, a small tactile rectangle imbued with so much love and longing, rested over Anna's heart, a silent testament to a bond shattered. Her breathing, shallow and erratic, punctuated the silence of the room, each breath a Herculean effort as her body, weakened by grief and neglect, slowly surrendered to the inevitable.
"Mama," she whispered again, her voice barely audible, a fragile thread connecting her to a world that had already begun to fade.
Outside, the city that never slept continued its relentless symphony of noise and motion, oblivious to the tragedy unfolding within the four walls of Anna's small flat. Cars honked, sirens wailed in the distance, and the muffled sounds of a neighbor's television seeped through the thin walls, creating a discordant soundtrack to her final moments. But inside, a profound silence descended, a silence deeper than the absence of sound. It was the silence of a heartbreaking, of a spirit extinguished, of a life cut short by the cruel hand of fate and the devastating consequences of human cruelty. The Braille label, a symbol of a love betrayed, grew cold against her skin as the warmth of life slowly ebbed away. Her fingers, once nimble and expressive as they danced over the keys of her Brailler, lay still, the words she longed to write, the apologies she yearned to express, forever trapped within the confines of her silenced heart. The melody of her life, once so vibrant, so full of promise, had reached its final, heartbreaking crescendo, leaving behind an echoing silence that spoke volumes. The world, in its vastness and indifference, continued to spin. The sun rose, casting its golden rays upon a city oblivious to the loss of one young woman's light. Birdsong filled the air, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that had settled over Anna's flat, a silence that stretched on, unbroken, unnoticed. Her phone, once a lifeline connecting her to a world of love, laughter, and shared dreams, lay silent on the bedside table, its screen dark, its battery drained, a digital tombstone marking the end of a life lived in digital spaces. The messages of concern, the pleas for her to reach out, the expressions of love from fans who had never met her but felt a profound connection to her music, remained unread, unanswered, lost in the ether. Her music, once a source of solace and inspiration for so many, was relegated to the digital archives, her once promising career reduced to a collection of tracks forever frozen in time. The world moved on, its insatiable appetite for new voices, new stories quickly filling the void left by her absence. And yet, in the silence, a legacy remained. A legacy not of fame or fortune, but of the enduring power of human connection, of the transformative nature of love, and the devastating consequences of its betrayal. Anna's story, though silenced, served as a poignant reminder of the fragility of trust, the importance of empathy, and the enduring power of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable loss. Anna's story was a love story. Not a conventional love story with grand gestures and fairy tale endings, but a love story nonetheless. It was a story of the love between two women, brought together by fate and united by their shared experiences, their vulnerabilities, their unwavering support for one another. It was a love story that transcended age, distance, and physical limitations, a testament to the power of human connection to bridge even the widest of divides. But it was also a love story marred by betrayal, a cautionary tale of the destructive nature of insecurity and the devastating consequences of unchecked jealousy. Daniel, blinded by his own fears, had poisoned a love that was pure and true, his actions setting in motion a chain of events that ultimately led to Anna's tragic end. In the end, Anna's story was a reminder that love in all its forms is a double-edged sword. It has the power to heal, to inspire, to elevate us to heights we never thought possible. But it also has the power to wound, to shatter, to leave us broken and lost in a world that suddenly seems devoid of color and light. And sometimes, the greatest love stories are the ones left untold, their melodies silenced, their echoes lingering in the hearts of those left behind.